We are live. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Empath Insight Power Panel. Today we're discussing what is detachment and how do you do it. My name is Melanie Medisol, and I help fabulously wealthy women seeking spiritual sisterhood, and I initiate them into their courtesans' journeys in my secret sorority, the Pleasurati.
Hi, my name is Marina Mcgreggor. I'm a self-love advisor and a divine feminine healing guide, and I help women root deeply into their personal power within my business, S.O.S guidance.
And I'm Lauren Estelle. I help empaths and highly sensitive people release their chronic illness symptoms by healing self-loathing and self-judgment through a deep connection with their intuition.
So if you're watching us again, please comment below. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are. If you have questions, comment also and ask them. We will get back to you. If you're watching the replay, please use hashtag #TeamReplay. So when we begin today with our discussion about what is detachment, I'm here to ask you guys, what is your definition of detachment and how do you practice it healthfully? Because I think sometimes people think detachment equals unattachment, which is not helpful. So how would you guys, so how would you define it and how do you practice it?
Okay, so for me, I feel like I'll talk a little bit about detachment in terms of relationships, specifically for, I'm talking specifically mainly for women who are trying to be in their feminine energy. Really quick, I'll just give like a really quick example of detaching from an outcome for manifestation, just for like the men out there too, because I'm gonna like talk about women stuff. But a good example for me for detachment is, for me personally, a while back, I was taking some sort of challenge. And in that challenge, I had to make a manifestation board. So I got really attached to the idea that I was gonna get this cork board that was in a white frame on Etsy that was like over $100. And it was gonna be like my manifestation picture board. And I was going to make that board like on this frame. So it was one of those things on Etsy that not only was going to be expensive, but it was also going to take a lot of time. So I told myself, I guess this is also a good example of like taking action on things that you can instead of waiting. But at first I told myself, okay, well, you know, like I'll wait a little bit on this until I get it, and then I'll do the thing. And then I thought about it and I was like, you know what? I'm going to let go. I'm going to detach from the idea of having to have this picture frame before I do my my manifestation board. And I'm going to, just for the fuck of it, make a little white picture frame out of paper and then put like my manifestation stuff in there. So it was it was a fun thing. It made me happy too. Right? Like I'm not dwelling on the thing. So it's like I've let go of the idea of this thing. I'm doing everything I can with what I have, being happy about it. Then like 2 days later, someone had hit me up with a shit ton of like free picture frames. And I ended up getting this one that was like very similar to the one that I wanted anyways. And like a little bit of backstory, I had been for like 6 months looking for someone that was like giving away a shit ton of like random picture frames, because I also wanted to make like this picture frame mural on my wall. So probably too much backstory into my life, but that for me was I always go back to that that example, because it's like something that was taking me so long when I was really attached to it happened in like 2 seconds when I just let it go and was happy in the moment. But speaking about detachment as far as like for women and stuff, I think it's really hard for a lot of women in relationships to get there if they're in their masculine energy or if they're used to operating in wounded feminine energy, if your attachment style is like an anxious attachment style, or if you're trying to quote unquote fix or like heal, or like, I just want to be there for my man, and you're centering everything around that. I think that it's going to be a little bit harder, or if your guy's in his feminine energy, because now you're fighting to be in your feminine energy, which is really like you're tricking yourself. You're just being in your masculine energy. So a lot of the people that I work with are people that are putting a lot of, they're like attaching a lot to their partners, and they're having a hard time letting go of that, because they feel like if they detach from that idea of, you know, there's so many examples, but just fixing them basically, that or the idea of like, I need to do these things to make this relationship work, that it's going to fall apart. So kind of like the picture frame example, I've noticed that if you're able to detach from the outcome and be happy with what you have going on in the present, you don't have to make choices or overthink things, because you're creating an energy that's so magnetic that you can't miss what's going to be presented for you with the opportunities that you have. And if it's not for you, it's going to fall away. And you don't want a man that doesn't want to put effort into you, because you're worth that. So when you detach from other people's realities as your own, or outcomes and like center into your own experience, it becomes really easy. So if sorry, Odin's I don't know what's going on over there, but sometimes Odin will hear nothing, and then he'll be really attached to the idea that someone's at my door trying to break in. But anyways, so what was I saying? So anyways, if you're presented with something that and you're going towards your desires, like basically for this to happen, for you to be able to detach, you have to be having your own things going on. You have to be really clear on your desires. You have to be clear on boundaries. And then if you are clear on those things, it becomes really easy to make choices, detaching, because does this fit my desire? Does this fit into my boundaries? Then it's a hell yes. If not, then it's a no. And like, you shouldn't be afraid of honoring your no. But there are a few key pieces that you have to work on to achieve this. So like healthy boundaries, prioritizing yourself without guilt, surrendering, taking back your energy and putting it into yourself, and vulnerable communication. So those are a lot of things that I've noticed help if you're having a really hard time, if detaching just seems like really scary for you, or you're like, no, I can't do that. And for people that are like, but Marina, isn't that selfish? No. Eventually you work as more of a partnership, and detachment isn't going to be like as great of a thing, but your vulnerability and your love is a gift. And so you should be giving it accordingly to the amount of devotion that you're seeing from your man, if you're trying to be in your divine feminine energy. So I'm not saying hold back those things or play games, but it doesn't make sense to be someone's wife when they're just like, I don't know what type of things I can say on here, but like when they're just, you know, being intimate with you every once in a while, we'll say it that way. So like, if they're not respecting you, you have to respect yourself. And by detaching a little bit in a healthy way, that's healthy, right? To detach in a way where you're just more focused on yourself. And then, you know, they can be a good person and you can love them, but someone needs to hear that today. So be open, but it's not your job to heal men. He's a man. He'll figure it out. You can be supportive. You can be there. But detach a little bit. And when he wants to show you that you're important to him because he's in his masculine energy and like you're not trying to control that, or attaching to him being that, then he will take the lead in his masculine, and then you know, or not, and he'll just stop showing up. But either way, you'll get what you need, and you're actually giving him what he needs. So that's kind of why this was centered. I kind of preface this for like more for women and their divine feminine energy, because I feel like this isn't for a man who wants a woman in her divine feminine energy to be like detaching and like that would be maybe a little bit of a different example of detaching, but anyways, that's kind of like what I had thought of when I had thought of detaching, because I know that that's hard for a lot of women, and there's a lot of guilt about like, you know, oh, like, isn't this selfish? Or like, what if the guy goes away? Or what if this, like, no, like, and you will find that by being like, if you're able to actually root into that and do it for you, and you're not doing it because of, you know, someone else or whatever, everything becomes easier and like options become easier. Anyways, that's what I got for detachment for today, and Odin.
Yeah, there's so much there. What comes up for me is our previous conversations around trust and surrender. And I feel like all three of these, like detachment and trust and surrender, all go together. And I mean, I can think of so many times in my life when I was super attached to something and I really didn't believe I would be okay if I didn't have whatever thing that I wanted, whether it was a job or a relationship or health or money or really anything. But yeah, there's so many examples from my life too, where whenever I decided I would be okay without that thing, and it would actually feel better to stop trying to force it and to just release it and just decide, basically, like make the choice. You know what? I'm going to be okay either way. Inevitably, the thing would come. That's how I met my husband. That's how I've made a lot of money, actually, is just being like, you know, I'm not going to force this to happen, or not in a way of being passive, but in a way of just kind of, it's like this reassured expectancy of like, I know what's meant for me is already coming. And if I disconnect from that inner knowing, then I'm pushing the thing away. So, it's hard to put all this to words because you really have to like feel it in your body and believe it in your body. The reason why so many of us get so attached, I think, is, yeah, like we don't believe that we'll be safe or loved or, you know, have our needs met if we don't have this desire. And the big way that I really overcome this, and I use it time and time again, is, as always, I connect with my intuition. And what this means is going inward to have a conversation with it, not just feeling like, what's my gut feeling about this? It's dropping out of the mental mind space and tuning into like this is what I do with clients, feeling into like, where's my center of inner aliveness? It might be somewhere in your gut or somewhere in your heart or anywhere in your body. And starting to open up a conversation with that part of you, and it inevitably has a different perspective. So there was a course I really, really wanted to do earlier this year. And I really thought, like, like my mind had a belief like I'm not going to be okay if I don't have this. Like it was a extreme attachment. Um, and the only way around it was for me to drop into my intuition and ask, like, will I be safe? Will I be okay? Will I be loved even if I don't have this thing? And inevitably the answer is yes. And I don't just make that up, like I feel for the answer, and anybody watching can do this. But this is what I teach my clients how to do. So the more you practice this, the more you build up that trust muscle within yourself, to actually like be able to receive those answers and trust those answers and know that you're actually hearing your intuition and what you're hearing is actually true. So there's an element of like, I'm going to trust the universe to provide for me, but sometimes we say we're going to do that and there's still a lot of fear. There's still a lot of really wanting the thing and being attached to it. So I don't know, for me, like it's kind of been a gradual journey of learning, you know what, I'm changing every day. And so I want this thing today, but it may be irrelevant tomorrow. That's kind of what happened for me with the course, actually. So yeah, so if you can kind of develop this loving relationship within yourself and with your spiritual connection, if that's the universe, God, source, whatever you like to call it. And like literally like having a conversation with that part, with that spiritual connection. You can journal with that. Just like ask your questions and feel for the answer and receive the answer. And I don't know, I work through like almost everything that way. Rather than trying to think about like, okay, how can I still survive without having this thing? I got to make a plan. It kind of, what works for me is coming to a place of like real inner peace about where I am. So a lot of people talk about like, be grateful for what you have. And for me, like that still wouldn't really satisfy me because I would still want the other thing. I'm like, yeah, I have a roof over my head and food on my table and that's great. But like, but to my mind, my thinking mind that has all the attachments, it didn't feel like enough. So being able to go beyond the mind, beyond that like 3D level of consciousness, and make the connection and feel for the answer of, oh, I actually have everything I need really, truly. And I starting to cultivate that feeling of love of what you already have. So yeah, it's one of those things like it's a gradual expansion, at least it's been for me, like expanding how good you can really feel in what you already have. It's not about thinking like I should be grateful because I have all these things and like other people don't. It's about feeling how good it feels to have what you have already. Um, and everybody's at a different place with that in terms of what they have, but that's been the thing for me in terms of detaching. It's gratitude's part of it, but I find a lot of people still try to get to a place of gratitude from a mental place, from a mental level. So getting into your body about it is really like, it's been the thing for me.
I wanted to say thank you to whoever is watching. Thanks for watching us. Comment if you have any comments, or else you're just creeping. I'd say for detachment, for me personally, it took me a long time to figure out the difference between detachment versus unattachment. So unattachment is usually like an unhealthy way, being stoic, forcing your feelings down, not feeling, and you're like, whatever, I'm going to just ignore it, which is also not what you want to be doing with your life. Like we don't want to ignore things that could be expanding us. So, for example, when it comes to me practicing detachment, though, like Lauren is saying, you got to feel it in your body, right? So, are you excited? Is there like a buzziness in your chest or your heart chakra? Is it like gets you excited? So, for example, one of my desires is to buy a ranch somewhere out west. So I've been staying up a little bit later, really wild and crazy. I'm at the age, guys, where looking at real estate gets me excited and turns me on. So
did you see that SNL skit about that?
So the SNL skit. So I was laughing at myself the other day. I was like, I am that person. So I follow like Zillow Gone Wild on Instagram to expand my confidence around real estate investing. I follow Circle Old Houses, Cheap Old Houses. There's another general old house Instagram I follow.
I like the old houses too.
Yeah, so like they're really reasonable, by the way. If anybody wants to get into real estate, just saying they're pretty affordable. Considering it's an old house, you think it'd be in like crappy condition, but they're actually really cool. Anyway, my point is, I'm really getting excited about the idea of getting a ranch. This isn't like some weird romantic notion I have either. Like it'll be life on the ranch and we get to milk the cows every day. Like that's not what I'm talking about. To me, it feels expansive. I'm also at the point in my own evolution where I kind of want to have a retreat in a country area to like be left alone. Like not have to deal with people. When you're living in like a larger city, like I feel like that's something you need to do. And so when I was looking for these ranches, I found one that was super beautiful. It had a bunch of little casitas around the property, and it's in a beautiful place in Mexico. And I found out it was $40 million. So I started laughing because I'm not there at this time, not there yet. But instead of being like, damn, it's $40 million, I'll never get it. I'll never be okay until I get this thing. I've practiced detachment so much that I'm like, man, cool, it's $40 million, whatever. It's beautiful. I get excited looking at it, and it inspired me to check out other ranches in other states and like check out regenerative farming practices in other states. Maybe there's another place, maybe New Mexico isn't the place I go. Maybe my inner being will lead me to Wyoming. I don't know. The whole point is about this. It's like you got to follow your intuition and make it fun. And that's also how you can detach. If you're at a place where it's like you're detaching and it's like a fun game, that's when you attract all that you want. So once you get past the point of needing it, that's when things flow. So as I was explaining to Marina and Lorna yesterday, I was traveling from LA to Minneapolis to Indy today. I'm in Indianapolis. And for some reason, even though I had my face covered with this stupid mask, even though I had my glasses on, you couldn't really see my face. I had so many people coming up to me, complimenting me. They liked the pants I was wearing. I had 2 men ask me out to dinner, like as I was walking through the airport, and I was like, I'm distracted.
Feminine energy radiating.
I was, right? Because another fun way to practice detachment is I was reading a book, and it was all about like vision building. So while I was reading a book on these 2 plane rides I was on, I almost felt like internally, like my mind was a holograph projecting like the vision I wanted to create. And it got me in the creative divine feminine energy, because that's what the divine feminine energy is. It's creative energy. So I'm like, cool, wouldn't it be fun if blah, blah, blah. So that's how I was thinking all day. So I feel like that is what attracted all these nice compliments. And like people thought I was beautiful. I had like a few men tell me I was beautiful yesterday, which is really funny because honestly, I haven't got hit on in over a year because 2020 and everything got canceled and everything was closed. So I'm in like an airport and I was like, oh, okay. Thank you. I'm very flattered. I'm dating someone, but thank you, random stranger. And so like when you get into that space though, that is when you magnetize. So it's not so much that I was like sexually turned on necessarily walking through the airport. It wasn't like I wasn't on the prowl looking for someone, right? So for me, I think of it as women that want to have relationships. I met a lot of women that are not only disconnected from their pleasure, and that when I say pleasure, I'm also referring to like your pussy, literally. But they're also like so attached. Like I need to get married. I need to find a man to get married and have a baby. And it's like they got their checklist going on. They don't leave room for the fun of the whole manifestation. They're like, okay, I'm going to be on an airplane. Hopefully, I'm like sat next to somebody who's somewhat attractive. Maybe I'll start a conversation with them. And then when I'm out there, I do know some people like this. So like I use the airports to network. And I'm like, whoa,
I know some people like that too.
It's like, you need to chill. Like, I'm all about if you're like in the business zone and maybe you're like in a business section of the airport. Like, sometimes I have like those Sky Club, members only areas. All about that. Go network if you feel the need to do it, whatever. But you cannot be going like that with your manifestations. You can't be coming in like that with, I have a goal to get married. It has to be done because I'm 35 and my eggs will be dried up. Like, that is just not the way to go into it. Versus, what if you had gone to the airport, you knew you're going to be in a bunch of flights, you say to yourself, oh, it wouldn't be fun to be sat next to someone so attractive. Do you have a vision of what you think is an attractive man, for example? Maybe you would just like get sit next to some hot guy and you have a chat, and then you're like, man, I got some good practice in, and you go about your life, right? And then you get off the plane, you have a layover, and you're like, man, what is going to be the most filling meal that I can get here? I don't want to get fast food. I want to go to a sit down restaurant and get a nice meal. And like you allow yourself to be led through the airport. You're there for 3 hours. Why are we rushing, right? And so that is what magnetizes people to you. So you know what I mean? That I met people in the airport that want to help me now with my business, but because they came at it with, how can I make this fun? When you have the fun removed from the detachment, that is, it's like, ugh, you could just go work a job. Thank you for everyone else that's joining us. Thanks for watching us. So that is my interpretation of detachment. And once you get, you step into the fun zone, you step into the pleasure. The detachment becomes more of a game. When you go too far in the "I have to get this or else I will die" category, that's when you actually almost get into the unattachment phase, which is where you're just going to ignore all your problems, which also doesn't happen. So it's a subtle that people forget.
Yeah, I want to touch on one thing because I'm thinking about, of course, the people that I serve, which so I work with people who are dealing with chronic illness and self-loathing and self-judgment, and I can hear them in my head being like, Melanie, how is life fun? It is not fun. I refuse. It doesn't feel true. So, and I used to be there. So I really, really appreciate that point. And also I'm like, yeah, so many of us get really attached actually to our own inner beliefs about who we are. And so if you have a belief running all the time that I'm a waste of space, these are all the things I used to say about myself. I'm a waste of space. I am the worst. I'm unlovable. I made all these mistakes, and so I'm not worthy of having good things. Feeling like having a feeling of fun and cultivating that making that choice can feel really, really hard because it is a choice. And so what I would prompt anybody to do who's in that boat is to first of all, notice your thoughts, notice how you speak to yourself, and start to become detached from those thoughts. And then you can, because if you have this program running of like, I'm the worst, you're repelling all the fun and you're repelling all of the things that you desire. Unfortunately, that's the way it works. And so when you just start to notice your inner monologue and how does it sound and how does it feel, can I make a choice to question it and just go, is this really true? Like, how do I know that I'm the worst? Like, is there any way to even prove that? Like, it's actually pretty subjective. And so this is what I've seen my clients do is when they can start to detach from their own stories about who they've been told they are for so long, like decades, life really organically starts to become fun. Like it's like an unexpected surprise benefit. They're like, I'm having so much more fun now. Like my body feels so good and I am really enjoying how I spend my time and I have all these wonderful experiences and like I wasn't even trying. So that's what I just wanted to add that for anybody who's feeling so stuck in the like, life doesn't feel fun because it's so hard because I have all these problems. That's really where you start, at least in my experience.
Right. And I've been very blessed not to have a chronic illness situation. And my body's in pain all the time. So I cannot speak to that personally. However, I also think it's important too, going with what Lorna was saying, is to strip down whatever labels you have on yourself and like whatever your human avatar is right now, let's go around and acknowledge your soul identity. Your soul identity is not a person that is in physical pain, right? Because your soul is eternal. Your soul is not your body. So whenever you again, I'm not the chronic health specialist over here, but that is something I would do before I understood the importance of prioritizing pleasure every day. I also had like a lot of those negative thoughts too. But it's like at the end of the day, once you strip down these labels, you remove any mistakes you have done in the past. It's really just a learning experience. That's all it is. And you get to your soul identity, you realize that you're actually none of those things. And so when you understand that your soul is eternal and you're a cosmic being, you're like, oh, this is silly. Like we can totally work through this. We don't have to be suffering. We will get to the end of it, and we will thrive. I think a lot of people also focus on surviving, just surviving and not thriving, which I always think is depressing. Like, we should be assuming that we're going to be in survival, like beyond survival mode. So we're thriving is like the bottom, and then everything above that is what we're going for.
It seems like a key theme throughout all of this with detachment is being happy in the present moment, and then also clearing out your closet so that you can do that. Like Lorna was saying. So I think that that's, something that, if detachment is something that's hard, detaching from outcomes, right? Like not detaching, not being detached. But yeah, it seems like just really centering yourself within you and being happy with that seems to be something that's like a key thing. Something else that I'll throw in too, I'm not sure if this is like, I thought about this for, I feel like detaching really works with everything. Like when you look at everything in life, it's so much easier when you're kind of, even with communication, like I deal with a lot of people that are like, what do I say? Like, he said this, what do I say? Like, how do I respond? And even that is, if you find yourself getting in that, that's kind of a sign that you're being attached to the outcome. Because if you're worrying about what you're going to say to somebody else, most of the time you're not saying things from like your heart space, or you're not saying things that are like really centered within you. Because if you are saying something that's really centered in you, you will be okay if the person responds not favorably, if they don't respond at all, if they say whatever you want, because you're like, that's my truth. Like, that's it. But if you are worried about, if you're saying something and you're like, it's not going to be a good situation for you if something happens, then I would ask yourself, subconsciously, are you, when you write that text or whatever, are you thinking in your head, I'm saying this because I hope that he responds this way? Like, that's a good way to see that you're not detaching from results. You're saying, and you're subconsciously controlling outcomes too. So that's hard. It's hard for women, especially if you're dealing with someone that they are like detached, or they're not, like, because you're thinking that it's like a coping mechanism of, well, now I have to control the situation, or I have to go into this. But I would challenge a lot of people to, it's hard sometimes if you get stuck in there, but if you notice yourself doing it, just wait a second. I'm getting a little bit too much in this other person's vortex. Let me take a step back, come back to myself, and really just be like happy in the present moment and really connected to myself. And by doing that, whatever is meant for you is going to, come up anyways. So I think that all this stuff it is kind of funny, like Lorna was saying, how the last few episodes kind of like tie into this one too.
Right. So does anybody have anything else extra they'd like to say regarding detachment before we wrap up this episode?
I think we got it.
All right, so we're going to end this episode with a request that if you're watching this live or the replay and you think someone could use this message, please share it to their page or send it to them via messenger. We like to get the word out about such a thing. And then to close, we're going to share our offerings. So if anybody's interested in detaching further, specifically for fertility, or maybe you have an infertility struggle, I myself am going to be at the Enhance Your Fertility Summit hosted by the West Coast Women's Reproductive Center. That is with a friend of mine, Dr. Tina Cooper-Smith. So we are going to be sharing ways in which you can conceive naturally, improve your overall health to optimize natural fertility enhancement before we get into IVF or other infertility treatments. I will be sharing the pleasure tools. So if you're interested in that, you can go check out the description box below to sign up. That will be on Sunday, April 25th from 12 to 3 p.m. PST.
And I'm going to share a couple things with you guys today. So I am doing a workshop soon. It's a little bit too early for me to be promoting it right now, but if you're interested, it's going to be free. So if you're interested, I'm going to be helping women basically root deeply within themselves. If you guys have problems with detachment, this would probably be something that would be helpful. Probably, definitely. But basically, we're just going to be working on the fundamental things, a lot of things that we talked about here today, and then cultivating a ritual that you can take away and work with for 21 days on your own, because a lot of these things you're not going to have deeply rooted within yourself in 3 days, right? But you can walk away with something that you can take to help you kind of move through that and center more within yourself. So if you are interested in that, I think Melanie has a link to my Facebook group. It's the Unconditional Self-Love and Shadow Work Community on Facebook. So if you guys want to join my group, I'm going to have more updates on that, and it's going to be a free workshop that I think will help. My area of expertise is self-love, shadow integration, coming back to yourself, and feeling deeply the love within you. So I always say it's prioritizing the relationship with yourself and then improving your relationship with others. I do soul sessions, which is a roadmap to finding unconditional love by loving yourself unconditionally. All sessions start with a personalized activation meditation to help you reconnect to your divine feminine power, the essence of your desires, and cultivate a sense of safety within your body so that we can begin to uncover what is keeping you stuck in old patterns. What are your desires? What do you believe is blocking you from your desires? So, if you're single, if you're in a relationship, if you just went through a breakup, or if you're just wanting to find that feeling of wholeness and unconditional love within you, then let's create a roadmap to leave you with a clear direction and action steps to start you on your journey. You could visit me over at SOSguidance.com for that.
Cool. And I'm offering vitality activation sessions where, if anything I was sharing earlier resonated with you in terms of getting out of the mind space, this is exactly what you'll get to experience in those sessions. I block them off for about an hour and 15 minutes, and that gives us time to talk a bit about what's your biggest challenge right now in terms of chronic illness, self-loathing, self-judgment, and kind of get up under all of the limiting beliefs and all of the stories around like, well, this and that is true about me, and I'm really limited, and I don't see a way around this. So it's a time where we drop into your awareness of your body and of your intuition, and it's a guided experience. So you really don't have to do anything, which is really cool. You just get to be receptive and open to receive whatever wants to come through. And I ask guiding questions the whole time, and it ends up releasing things like physical symptoms and deeply repressed emotions. You completely get to have freedom from those limiting beliefs, and it just clears a lot of stuckness for people. So yeah, especially if detachment is something that feels really difficult right now and you feel very attached to something, and it feels like it's actively causing you suffering, this would be a really effective way to get around that, and the healing effects of it last for the days after as well. So yeah, the link for that is in the description. There's a great testimonial video there as well. And those are $197 for a limited time. So you probably want to grab that before it goes up to $222.
Great. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that Oh wait, no, sorry. I just wanted to say that yeah, Lorna's vitality sessions are awesome, and if people, especially if people have a hard time connecting with their intuition on their own, I think that they're really helpful with that.
Yeah, thanks, Marina. Yeah, I find a lot of people think that they are connecting with their intuition, but they're actually not quite going deep enough, and it can be hard to have that dialogue back and forth with it when you haven't quite strengthened that muscle yet, and it can be hard to like go from the mind back down and up and down. And anyway, so it's meant to be a guided experience that helps you build that skill within yourself, so it clears a lot, and then you come out of it with new skills too. So yeah.
Awesome. This wraps up our episode today on detachment. Thank you guys for watching. And again, if you know anybody that could use this message, please share it or comment below. Thanks for watching.
Bye.